So this is Justin. Justin's amazing. You need to know Justin. If you haven't seen me interview Justin before, this is going to be an eye opener. That's for sure. We're going to talk about two different things today. We're going to talk about your business and how, what we've done together has completely shifted your business. And then you and I are going to also kind of touch on, and this is just for Ontario agents, the second part of it. But there is a new product out there that is absolutely going to change the game in terms of you getting more listings. So we're going to talk about that as well. All right, let's talk about where were you? Let's talk about let's go back a year and a half.
Well, so going back to just the beginning of COVID, I guess is a year and a half ago ish.
Yeah.
I was in a room with a bunch of people that Jess invited us to, because we were part of the listings lab, the listings lab group, not the 7FA group that we're in now. And I just had this epiphany in that room. So let's actually just jump back a little further. The previous year, and I like to talk numbers, so we can go that route because this always tends to kind of excite people. I did $150,000 in GCI in 2019, which as an individual is not a terrible amount of money as an income, but I actually had a team of 3 and I was struggling and we were in a tough place. And so I ended up in this room. Actually, I think it's the room you're sitting in right now, Jess.
I'm sitting in that room right now.
Yeah. I was sitting next to one of those pillars. And I just had this epiphany, like, oh crap, I'm doing things wrong. And it was one of those, I don't know what I don't know moments. And realizing that out loud in my head. Actually, I was out loud talking to the people around the table saying, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing here. I know what I'm doing here, but I don't know what I'm doing in my business. And so it was one of those moments where I just had to make a decision, and we knew we needed to do something, because where I was at there was I was brought there by everything that was in here. And I didn't have the capacity in here and to take myself to the next level. And I think the reality is that I am a tremendously ego-filled human being. I'm very that way in a lot of ways. And I thought I knew everything. And I came from a team that was doing what it was doing, and I thought I knew better. And so it was a difficult decision for me to put all that aside and let someone else sort of say, hey, no, this is how it's done. Like, I finished school years ago. I knew, you and I always keep learning, but it just never sunk in. And so I made a decision at that moment to hire you guys and your team and jump into the program and be a part of what you were offering. And honestly, if nothing else came from it, it was this, lots of stuff came from it, and I'm sure we'll talk a little more about it, but if nothing else came from it, it was the structure of the systems that I was completely missing that put us in the right direction. We had no systems, no models, for nothing, for like literally just flying by the seat of our pants, which I think a lot of realtors struggle with, because it's not abnormal. No, here, I'm going to change that. I'm going to say it's not uncommon, but I don't want to say it's normal, because I don't want to normalize disorganization. But I think it stems from not realizing that it's not that they don't realize it. It's that they don't understand how to treat real estate as a real business.
Agreed.
Right. They think they're running a business, but they're not really running a business. Right. They're running it almost like I can't even explain how it is, but it's so disorganized. And that's just my experience, because that's what I went through. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of you watching this right now going, yeah, like the next call that comes in, I'm running to that, and then I'm running to that. And then I'm not really there's no rhyme or reason for anything that I'm doing at this point, or I was doing at that point, until I had the things put in front of me that were necessary pieces to sort of slide all those pieces into place and then go, oh.
And now, I look at Justin and I have become friends over the course of this. And I look now at, not that you don't work, or not that you don't work hard, but you are definitely not, your days are not full the way that they were.
No, absolutely not. I think the hardest part for driven human beings to sort of give up is the leverage of the things that they want to do. Yeah. I am the opposite of that. I'm driven in that I have a goal in mind. I know I don't want to be put it this way. I have a pedigree of real estate. I've been in it for 41 years. My parents have been in it. My mom's still doing it at 70 odd years old. And to me, that's not something I want to do. Right. I've seen what she's done and I'm like, I want to do it different. Right. So she's all over the place, back and forth and running like crazy, and, you know, two replaced knees and, you know, falling and hurting and all kinds of things going on. And I'm like, you should be winding down your career. Not that I don't admire what she's doing at her age,
for sure,
no question. But I just think that for me, I want to be able to take the time to spend time with my kids at their hockey. Right. I want to take the time to spend time with my wife going for, we discussed it the other day, I'm trying to arrange like a night out, like in town, in the city and so on, and do stuff like that and not have to worry about my phone ringing or an email coming in. Right. So everything I've been doing since we started the listing lab was kind of born out of, I jokingly see out of laziness because I don't like actually working in general, but it's born out of trying to get myself to that next level of leverage to be able to say, okay, what can I do next?
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing that life has taught me over the years, it's that passive income is one of the most important things you can put together for yourself. And if you can build a team and a structure in your business and build multiple streams of income that way, then you're laughing, right? Because I'd rather have money work for me than me work for my money, if that makes
100%. And part of one of the shifts that Justin had to make, and I would say most agents have to make in order to kind of break through that next level barrier, is going to be, it doesn't have to be me doing everything. My clients don't only need me. And again, that's like fundamentally it's an ego thing, but it really, your clients are happier that they're being taken care of in a different way, in a better way. And it's not only Justin flying by the seat of his pants. It's a systematized process and system that they're engaged with, that like the level of service that they are providing is so much better than it was.
But it starts with, every little piece is important. So it starts with hiring.
100%.
Right. And that really truly becomes, now I've lucked out a little bit in my hiring process because they were very organic hires rather than having to put an ad out there and have to interview and so on. And that's not a conversation for right now, but I fully 150,000% trust the people that I've put in place to do the jobs that they've done.
Yeah.
When I'm putting them in front of my clients, there's no question that these people are qualified and educated and know what I expect of them and what
they've been given the tools that they needed.
Exactly. And so when I say so I had my kids play hockey, I just mentioned. So I had a lady who I've known for 6 or 7 years call me. She's a police officer in Peel. She said, my mother's selling her house out here. Can you get that sorted and help us find something? Yes, 100%. Selling the house was a referral out in the city because I don't do Toronto. So I did that, which is great. Listing lab referral, which is awesome. You can always trust the listing lab agents. But then coming into Burlington to buy, you know, she's coming to me directly, and you would expect that person to expect me. But I set the expectation up front that, hey, listen, this isn't how this works. I can't be there to hold your hand all the time through this process because it doesn't serve me best. It doesn't serve you best, most importantly, as the client, because I've got all of these things to do to make sure this business runs correctly. So I've been able to leverage that into people that are just amazing. So if you have a team and you're growing a team, like putting effort into the hiring process, like not just putting an ad out and hiring everybody that makes fog on a mirror. I mean, like this takes time and effort. This is not just a 5-second thing and an ad in the newspaper. So
well, I mean, your marketing's changed, your systems have changed, the people, the humans on your team have changed. I mean, your business doesn't look anything like it did, but the result of all of these shifts and all of these changes is that you've had time, energy, bandwidth for, you know, fitness, for lifestyle. Like Justin looks like a completely different person. He's lost a tremendous amount of weight. He's on this journey. He's there for every single one of his kids' hockey commitments, right? That right from day one, he was super upfront about that. He's like, I want to be there. I want my kids to look back and to think my dad was at everything. And Not only that, but you've also had the time, energy, bandwidth.
You're going to make me cry.
but it's true, right? It's true, right? But you also have the time, energy, bandwidth where you've actually been able to, well, we've been able to start a whole other business that, because you actually had the space to step back and look at the industry as a whole and say, oh my gosh, I think there's a hole here. Right?
Yeah. Let me just point out one other thing, just relating to the real estate side and being there and having that leverage, is that the one thing that people get into real estate thinking is that they're going to sell real estate and they're going to sell. I got into it right off the hop on a team. So that was my goal, was to start a team and be the team leader because of the leverage point, because I knew that I could leverage people properly, but I just didn't know how to do that. That was the key. So then opening up this other door, like jumping my to the next level and saying, okay, now there's bandwidth to do this. Now this is something that I've been looking at for 3 or 4 years. And this is again, back to the things that people do. It's like, you know, how often have you said to yourself when you're sitting in the bathroom on the toilet, oh, that'd be a great idea. And then like 3 years later, you know, some other person.
It's still been a really good, someone else took that idea and ran with it.
Yeah. I mean, who came up with Facebook before Zuckerberg, right? I mean, someone probably had an idea, but never executed on it. Right. So I think that, you know, all of that time thinking and doing and worrying about expenses and worrying about food and worrying about my weight and my health and going through the health problems I was having prior to all of this stuff that have all gone away, opened up that bandwidth. And yeah. So, I mean, I don't know do you want to get into the thing now? Are we getting into the thing?
Yeah, in a second. But what I want, because I do want to kind of like drop some hints, because we are going to do a full training on this thing that Justin is creating. But I also want to talk about the fact, like, there's 3 reasons why people get into this industry. And you guys have heard me say this a million times: unlimited income, unlimited, like basically like freedom, being able to set your own schedule, and being able to help people. Now, a lot of the time what ends up happening is agents become their own bottleneck, right? You get to a certain level of business where you're like, hey, that's it, I can't handle anymore. Or you're like, I'm a really great agent, I care more than everyone else, but I don't have enough clients to serve. And Justin was actually kind of both at the same time. And we shifted, like the marketing shifts and the stuff that we did with his marketing. I mean, he was probably one of the most coachable people I've ever worked with. And people will say to me all the time, like, what has made Heather and Ara and Justin and Chris, and like, what has made them so successful so fast? And the answer to that has always been, for me, coachability. It's not, I'm going to take what you told me and I'm going to do part of it, or I'm going to take what you told me or what you're telling me is worked and tested, and I'm going to do bits and pieces of it because I think I know better. Justin came into this and was like, and granted, like, for him and knowing his personality, this was not an easy thing for him to do, but he came in and he was like, I'm just going to do whatever you tell me to do.
Well, that stemmed from the idea that I had no choice at that point. Like, we were hurting financially. We were in a spot with a few things going on. We had sold our house the previous year to get out from under some debt and so on. And so we're in a rental, and that pissed off my wife because she wanted to own a house and we didn't own a house. And it was a whole series of things. But I think the reality becomes that when we walked into the program and I signed on the line, my hand was shaking like a leaf. It was crazy how, it's a big commitment to sign on the 7FA line. When I signed on the line, the discussion on the phone with my wife, that's one of the stories from the very beginning. Andy, when I signed on the line, I was on the phone with Andrea, and we were discussing it, and we both said to each other, if we do this, whatever she says, we are going to do. Like, there's no middle ground. And there's no second guessing. And we even had our moments where we second guessed, like 3 months in. We were like, what the hell, we don't think, what is going on? And that's scarcity, right? Because we hadn't done a lot of money.
You start to freak out. And that's normal.
And we pushed through that, and we kept going. And the end result, I can only, listen, we blew it out of the water, and we're extremely happy. And it's given us everything we've gotten, a year and a half later, which seems a bit quick and extreme, but anybody can have this success. And the reality becomes, look at someone like, I'm trying to be relatable here, Austin Matthews. or Mike
I don't know
Trout.
who
If
that
you're in
is.
don't worry about it. In your audience will know. Or Mike Trout, or Connor McDavid, or any of these top level athletes. You watch those behind the scenes things, those shows on Prime, behind the scenes of the Leafs or whatever. They're on the ice, and there's coaches on the ice helping them develop little things to grow. So I don't care who you are, at what level you're at, there isn't an opportunity for you to learn something new that will help you grow somewhere or another. Because when you stop growing, the success, I don't know what's the thing. When you stop learning, you stop growing. That's the point. That's what I'm trying to make. So when you stop
and you fall
learning,
behind.
you fall behind. There's people that are stuck in their way. There was a post you made on Facebook yesterday or the day before.
Oh, it ruffled some feathers, man.
And you can tell that the people that were chirping back at you about that post were people that were like, well, this is my comfort zone, and I don't care to learn anything different. And everyone else is doing the same thing, and oh, this works for me, with no understanding of the reality of what that really is, or wanting to even explore even further, right? Which is a shame, because they just don't want to learn, and every agent, I jokingly say that to my clients all the time. Just throwing it out there. If I have to see another congratulations on my client's journey, it's just ridiculous.
Well, there's better, more creative, more engaging ways of doing things. And I think that that's really where we were able, and let's be honest here, like, you're in a market like this area locally. I think there's we're up to 60,000 licensed agents, right? So if you're doing the same thing as 60,000 other people, whether you're doing it at a larger scale or a smaller scale, whatever, if you're not actually cutting through or breaking through any of that noise, it's very, very difficult for you to stand out and for you to grow. The people who are telling you to do the same thing that everyone else is doing, or there's a lot of copying in this industry, and it's just because we're taught how to not get sued. We're not taught how to run businesses and be marketers and really like excel at the things that tend to grow our business. So there's all of that. And I think really, I get a lot of pushback sometimes because I'm constantly pushing and I'm constantly challenging people to look at things differently and try something different and do something that's uncomfortable. And, I would never ask anybody to do something that I wasn't willing to do myself. And that's been kind of a rule of thumb for me, right? I will never ask anybody to invest in something that I wouldn't myself readily invest in. I've done the same thing as Justin's done. I've, drained my bank accounts to hire coaches. I moved to California from the East Coast at one point for 6 months so that I could work with a coach, because I knew, I was like, I'm all in. And I'm not going to let anything that I do fail, because I'm going to do it right. And I'm going to do it right from the beginning. And that's why our businesses have always grown so quickly. But I also think that there's an element of ego that comes along with it that you have to put aside, right? Like, you guys, I've interviewed one of my coaches in this Facebook group before. He just turned 30, right? Like, do you know, and I started working with him when he was 27. And looking back on that, I really had to let my ego go. And just because he was super young, me not judging what he knew and that he was better than I was at things. I had more business experience than he did. But at the end of the day, he had different experience than I did, and he had experience that I needed. So I think that a lot of it just comes down to, are you willing to do the things? Are you willing to be coachable and open your mind up to things? And are you committed to the limiting stories that you tell yourself, or are you committed to the goals, the dreams, the things that you're putting, that, maybe right now feel very unrealistic?
There was a time when I actually said to myself and out loud to a few people, oh, I'm comfortable making $100,000 a year. And I look back.
We all do it. We all say that.
But I'll tell you why I did that, though. I did that because it was inside my comfort zone. I didn't have to stretch to go further at that point. I was there. And it was like, this is okay. I'm good here. But what was that creating in my life? It was creating all kinds of things that were piling up behind me, and stress and all kinds of other things that caused other problems. There's an old limitations. And there's an old adage that I think we always fall back on, something like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think, honestly, it's bullshit nowadays. Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on here, but I think that's bull crap nowadays, because all agents are the same. We all have access to the same stuff. The thing that differentiates each agent is us.
Yeah.
How are we going to showcase that and be different than everybody else?
And how are we showing up and how are we creating connection? And honestly, like your brand is not your colors, your logos, your fonts. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah. I walked through a golf tournament 3 weeks ago of a dad group in a local area here. And I've never in my life had so many people go, "Hey, Justin." And I have no idea who.
Yeah. Well, you've created an element of local celebrity, which is one of the foundational reasons why your business has grown the way that it has. Now, Justin and I can talk about this all day long. I'm sure that there's people here who have questions. If this is resonating with you, I would love for you to just drop a yes or a anything, just drop something in the chat so that we know that, and he knows, and everyone else in this group knows that they're not alone. And I think that real estate can be super, super lonely, where you feel like you're climbing this mountain all by yourself. You're trying to figure it out. You don't know where the next deal is coming from. Maybe you do know where your next deal is coming from, but maybe you're stuck and you're overwhelmed. You can't take on any more clients. There's a million things that happen at different levels of this business, right? And it all can become incredibly stressful, but it doesn't need to be. So, one of the things that every agent tells us that they want over and over and over again is, I want more listings, right? I want more listings. You got to list to last, right? Like we can pull the cliches, out from everywhere. Everybody wants listings. There's a reason why my program is called the Listings Lab, and it's not called Buyers Galore or something, right? Like it's called the Listings Lab because that's what people want. That's what agents want. And so, Justin's had this idea for a long time. He brought it to me. We had this conversation. We are only right now in Canada because, that's what we've been able to do up until now. But there is this whole concept of what is going to set someone apart. Part of that is a signature system. Part of that is your marketing, which I talk about all the time. You can find videos on it in this group about how you need a signature system, how your marketing is going to speak to and draw in either buyers or listings or no one. It all starts with your marketing. But everybody needs a leg up. Every agent needs another point of differentiation. And it is becoming harder and harder for us to set ourselves apart. It's not just, I've been in the industry for 35 years and I just know more. Because again, like a smart buyer, a smart seller knows that being in the industry for 35 years actually might be a detriment now, if you haven't learned and grown and expanded and become digital. So Justin came up with this idea called, and we've named it, or he's named it, listing loans. And the concept behind it is absolutely brilliant. And we're going to do a whole other presentation on this. But it's basically something that has, to a certain extent, been available in the States in the past, but has never existed in Canada. And there's so many agents who, we all know that you can't sell a house for the most if it's not staged, if it's not prepped properly, if the leaking bathroom isn't addressed or whatever that is. Justin has created a solution for it in a way that it costs the agent very little, almost nothing, and the homeowner gets access to funds for everything for 6 months for free. And it's an absolutely brilliant concept. I don't want to go into it too much, but if you're interested, you just go to listingloans.ca.
Listingloans.ca, yeah.
Yeah, go to listingloans.ca. Take a look at the site. We're going to do a whole other presentation on it at some point for people who are interested. But this is literally we're testing it with certain agents, and it's getting them the yes strictly because of this. This can literally be the difference between getting a listing and not getting a listing, and not having to put up so much money of your own money up front.
So circling back to the point about running this as a business, running your real estate business as a business, I was talking to an agent recently, literally last week, who's one of the top agents in our area. He's right now, as of today, at 1.3 million GCI. And his expenses are at about 30% of that. So and a large portion of that goes into staging and helping people get houses ready. And so the idea is we want to try to keep you, like, let you keep your money in your pocket.
100%.
Right? That's it.
Yeah, it increases profitability, but also makes sure that like you're getting the yeses. It's a value add that only and just so that you know, this is only available to agents. So anyway, if it's something that you're interested in, go to listingloans.ca. You can book a call with Justin. He can talk to you all about it. We will at some point, I think beginning of November. Is it next week? It's next week or the beginning of November.
I think next week.
November 3rd, we're going to do a big presentation for like everyone who's in here in Ontario, but total game changer. And yeah, I mean, I really think that, you know, I love using Justin as an example of what's possible, because a year and a half ago, he was doing 150 grand with 3 people on his team, not knowing really what was going to happen. And now he has one 7-figure business. He's got another business this listing loan business is going to absolutely, it's so necessary. I can't believe nobody else has done it, but he finally had the time, energy, and bandwidth to actually do something with this idea that at some point somebody was going to do, right? And so it got to be you. And you know, I'm super grateful and lucky that he brought me in on it. But it's one of these things that without making these shifts and changes in the business, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Right. And so, you know, the fact that he's going to his kids' stuff, he is such a good dad. Like he's such a good dad. He's doing so many amazing things, and he's not, guys, and I don't say this in terms of like, this doesn't mean that you are this, but he's not that typical douchebag agent who's out there like tooting his own horn and, you know, flashing his fancy stuff. He's more successful than most of those agents out there who are doing those things, but he's just doing his thing, being a dad, taking care of business, and, you know, building the kind of life that he wants to build and starting something else that was always of interest. So it just opens up so many doors. Real estate is a fantastic vehicle to your goals. But I don't like, very few of us came out of the womb thinking, I am born to be in real estate. It is my mission. It is my life. It is the only thing that I need in my world, right? Real estate is a fantastic vehicle to achieve the things in our lives that we really want. And you can love real estate. You still don't have to feel guilty about the fact that you also want something else. So, you know, I love using you as an example. I'm so proud of you and I love you so much. And you know that. And you know,
we couldn't have done it without you and your team, because they've all been so amazing. I mean, this is a bit of a love fest here. I don't want to turn it into too much of that, but, but I think the reality is that you have to realize at some point that you need help, no matter what. I mean, you know, they talk about it when you have addictive personalities, you have to go get help. But step one is always, you know, realizing yourself that you have a problem. And, you know, I was too arrogant to realize that I had an issue. I came from a well-to-do real estate family and I thought I knew it all because of that, but I don't. And I didn't. And I thought I knew about sports and food, nutrition, and so on, because I was an athlete as a kid, and I don't, and I didn't. And I got fat, and it is what it is. Right.
And you got help.
And I got help. And I thought I knew about investing and money and all this other stuff, but I didn't. And we got in debt, and now I got help and we're out of it. So I think the message here for me is, ego aside, you know, let people do what they do in order to help you, because that's their job. And yeah, you know what? It costs money, but the money that it costs made me exponential money on the back end.
Yeah.
Right. My kid's education is secure now. Again, I lost it a while ago because I had to pay it out for some stuff. Yeah. And now it's back in the bank. Right. Yeah. And not just because I made money in real estate, but because I hired the right people to put in place because of the advice I got from the team over here. And that's the thing, is that Jess isn't taking your team and saying, okay, this is the way it has to be. They're starting with your goal, your end goal in mind, and deconstructing it and working backwards and starting again, because they want to know what you want, because what you want might be different from what I want. Yeah. Right. Like I watched the show Succession, and these guys are fighting over billions of dollars. And I'm like, why bother? Just walk away with your billions of dollars and live like right off into the sunset. Because that's what I would do if I had $1 billion in the bank. I don't need to work again for the rest of my life, but they want to keep going. Doesn't make sense to me. But whatever. People are like that. But there's
people
other
are
people
different.
Totally. Gary Vaynerchuk said one time, he said, if you're at home in your 1-bedroom apartment, working at McDonald's, making, 60 grand a year as a manager, and you're completely and utterly happy, and you go to sleep at night and you don't have a care in the world, and that's your thing and you love it and you're so happy. I envy that.
Yeah.
I envy that, because that's what I'm striving for, but just at my level. Right.
Well, and the thing with you too, is that, I think a lot of the issues that we dealt with early on was just the fact that you knew that you had this unfilled potential.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. And I think that comes up so often, where people are like, look, I'm doing okay, but I feel like I'm capable of more, and I only have this one life. And I want to fulfill my potential. I want to be what I can be, so that I look back and I don't think, oh, I wasted this opportunity. You and I could do this all day. We could talk all day long about this stuff. Guys, if you are, if you're here and you're listening and you resonated, please let us know. If you have questions about anything, let us know. Go to listingloans.ca and book a call with Justin if you're in Ontario and you're interested in talking to him about that. And if you have a question for me about what we do and about what we did to help Justin, send me a direct message. Comment below or send me a direct message or whatever, and we'll start the conversation and see whether or not we can even help. I think that there's just, we're not going to be for everybody, but you don't know if you don't ask, right?
Yep.
Anyway, you're wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're not so bad either.
And I really think that the fact that we get to do this and break it down, and there's not a lot of smoke and mirrors behind things, and this is just like two real people having a conversation. My husband's going to make fun of me that I did this, that I went live in front of 20,000 people with this situation happening, but you get what you get.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is. So guys, I hope you guys are having the best day. And if you have questions or you need anything, just reach out. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Justin. And let's get this video in front of more people. More people need to hear Justin's story so that they actually know what's possible.
Let me just end with this. Okay. 147,000 GCI in 2019, 650,000 GCI in 2020, and $1 million going into 2021. That'll be the end of 2021. We'll be over $1 million based on what we've got. So within the space of less than 24 months, I will have created a 7-figure business using the systems and models that Jess has put in place for us. A couple of them I even tried to push back on a little bit, but she made me do it, and I did it, and here we are. So
and
those numbers don't lie. And there's Andrea and I were just talking about it. We were kind of breaking down the things and why and what was going on. And it's like this, if we weren't here in this system, we would not have, there's no way. Yeah. Bottom line. So, it is what it is. And I'm happy.
Well, I'm grateful that, we were the catalyst for everything that you were capable of.
I'm glad that we're friends. That's all that matters.
I'm glad we're friends too.
Whatever. Money's anything. Money's money, but you're a great person, and I just enjoy hanging out.
Thank you.
With you. That's all right.
Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. I know we talked longer than, we had planned, but that's what happens. If you have questions, let us know. Otherwise, see you soon.